Good day, all. This is Omari Dyson coming to you from a Zoom session, personal Zoom session, that is. I'm sorry and I apologize to you all once again. I wanted to at least schedule a time where we all can meet up, but since this is an online class and schedules of your schedules are so scattered, it's going to be very difficult for us to coordinate at least a time for the majority of us to meet. So this would be the method that I'll use to communicate with you guys. And of course, you all have my information if you want to speak with me one-on-one, or if you have a group of individuals that want to have a session, I'm open to that. Just email me, let me know, and then we can schedule that time. So today is September 9th, 2020. Last night or this morning, I sent you all a few emails just to highlight certain events that have happened during the month of September in history. And so want you guys to just, be aware and just be sensitive to what's going on historically, what has happened historically in this country during this time period. So take some time for that. And, you can integrate that into your future post, or even if you want to explore that for future research, you're at will to do that. So what I wanted to do today is just to talk about, I've read many of your discussions, and thank you all for being very elaborate and expressive with sharing yourself in those discussions. For those that I've had classes with, I can see how you've grown since the first day we've met to now, and I'm very proud of you for those. And for those that that this is the first time meeting, thank you, because I enjoy reading your posts and look forward to seeing how you all develop in the class as we move forward. So let me just address a couple points and some pieces. I don't want to keep you all too long with this, but we're embarking on a very interesting time this year of 2020, and this is a space where I think that people who are scholars in peace and conflict studies can really prosper, and this is the time to really make it known. It's very interesting because last night I was just going through some YouTube videos, and I came across one with the rapper by the name of Jay-Z, and he made a statement to talk about, he made a statement about 50 Cent, when 50 Cent really made it to the mainstream. If some of you all remember, this is probably around 2001, 2002, off of the Eminem album, the song named Wankster, all right? And Jay-Z is in the booth and in the studio working with some of his guys, Memphis Bleak, one of those rappers. And he said to them, you guys need to, flood the market. You need to let your content, let your information get out there. And his guys were like, they didn't necessarily take heed to what Jay-Z was saying. And then next thing you know, he said, you got to be careful because 50 Cent is coming. And then next thing you know, 50 Cent just blew up, and then they were just left there, and you don't really hear much from those guys anymore. So, that was very interesting to hear that, because I thought about us as peace and conflict scholars and students, and thinking about what is it that we really need to do to address these issues. You can take this from whatever angle. You can take it from the racial aspect, the economic, the social, the cultural. I mean, it's so diverse in regards to how you want to look at conflict, and it's one of those things where we have to etch ourselves in history at this point in regards to who we are and what we want to accomplish. And that's one of the purpose of this class, is for you all to really begin to think, specifically for your praxis projects, to really think about who you are as a person, whatever your discipline is and whatever your experience is, but how you can take those experiences and that knowledge that you have and put it to work, all right? And so this is the time for us to do that. There's so many so many changes that we as a society and as a global society have experienced. And now we have to think about what the future is going to hold for us and for our children and for our older generations. So begin to think about that and help me and let me know how I can be of assistance for you. All right. So let's get into this. When you look at conflict, and many of you all have expressed, conflict is all around us. There's no way of beating it. We have to just think about the fact that when we enter a space with another individual or a group, we come with differences, and those differences can contribute to conflict. Now, that conflict can be a positive conflict, negative conflict. It doesn't. I'm not looking at it in that context. I'm just saying that conflict is something that is present in any interaction, and even within ourselves, we have conflicts when we encounter a challenge. So conflict is something that we need in order to progress from point A to point B. How conflict is used is more so the issue that we have to begin to think about. All right. And when you look at the five, there have been people who identify various sources of conflict, but when we look at, sources of conflict, one of the major sources of conflicts that happen is, and why we have so much quote unquote beef in the world, is due to misunderstandings. One person sees something from one perspective and another sees it another way, and they begin to clash. But for us, for my people who are the mediating world, how do we begin to listen to these two sides, these two conflicting sides, and find some middle ground and help us work together to achieve a particular goal? In some cases, you have other people who may have some degree of strength in regards to resources, and they'll take that degree of power and influence and overtake another person. And in some cases that other person has to find a way to react to that, and they resist to that. Anytime you have an abuse of power, you have the abuse of power's brother, which is resistance. That's the way it works, and that's the way society goes, the yin and yang, the balance. This is what we do. So we begin to look at those aspects of conflict and understanding that in order for us to move towards another point, we have to address that aspect of conflict, because that aspect, that if not addressed properly, that conflict is going to come back to haunt us. And that's what we are dealing with now as a society. A student asked me a question, sent me an email about 2 or 3 days ago, and he asked me, how do you deal with in this mediation class, how do you deal with, or how can we deal with racial differences or racial conflict? And it's a tough question. And I told him that, in the midst of all this racial uproar that we're experiencing, we already know how to solve this problem. All right. Is being able to allow both parties to come together and listen to each other, to empathize with the other person and recognize that the other person is a human being. You guys are going to come to that when you read Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. The problem when it comes to the abuse of power is that one party does not believe the other person is human. And they do things to dehumanize them or lower them or degrade them. And this degradation leads to the other party reacting to that. All right. Now, when we look at racial conflict, and I sent you a piece on this in regards to the founding fathers, understand that the foundation of this country was built on imbalance. This land was taken from a group of people, and the blood of them is in the soil, and from that, there was a nation built upon that. And so we're thinking about racial conflict. You're looking at years and years of issues and years of abuse that have to be addressed and that were not addressed. If you're looking at Black and white relations in this country, you're looking at 494 years of abuse and socialization that has happened to rob people of their humanity. So if you're really wanting to address racial conflict in this society, we can't go by this notion of, well, we just need to eliminate anti-race programs and white privilege programs and whiteness studies. All those things need to be thrown away and did away with. No, the reason why we have that is because there's so much resistance from those in power to address what their issues are. When you're not able to release and give up your power, your prestige, and your privilege, then you understand that we have these forms of conflict that are always going to happen until that issue is addressed, or those issues are addressed effectively. You have to heal people in order for them to be fully whole, in order for them to be active and productive members of society. All right, so that's how I responded to that person. And I think that this can be expanded to so many different areas and so many different levels. And I sent you another piece yesterday in regards to Erick Brahm's stages of conflict stages. And that's a pretty good model to think about when we look at conflict and looking at how conflict emerges, and to begin to say, well, how can we intervene in a situation to prevent it from reaching a point of no return? And that's what many of us fail to do. I'm going to use a very simple example. In my previous life, when I say previous life, in my many degrees ago and many years ago, I was a family therapist. I dealt with couples. And one of the pieces that when couples came to me in therapy session, they usually came at the end when there was this moment where they just said, I can't deal with this anymore, and they come to me to help to fix them. And of course they say our issue is communication. It's never communication. It's what's embedded within communication. And within communication, our experiences, it's history, it's upbringing, it's pains, it's hurts, it's love, it's joy. Everything is embedded within communication. So, and through our communication, you also have the aspect of the verbal, you have the nonverbal communication. All of these things are all part of who we are, the cultural aspect of what we bring into a conversation. And so one couple comes in with one day, I'll use this example, and they met, one night stand. It was supposed to be a one night stand, which led to a baby. And so they tried to make it work. And it was just like, okay, she's saying to him, well, I need him to be a man. And he's telling her, well, I am a man, saying the same thing, but in different ways. For her, manhood was, you have to have a job, make money, provide for your family, because that's what her father did. But in her eyes, you have to be rich. And for him, he's a working class man, and he's like, I'm doing what I have to do to provide for my family. But to her, it's not good enough. So what are we doing here? Before we reach the breaking point, is beginning to understand and unpackage those differences that exist between these two individuals and helping them work together to achieve a particular goal. It's unpackaging those hurts, those pains, those disappointments, but also realizing that we're coming to the table with our own stuff. And if we don't address our own stuff, then they're going to come out in those interactions and potentially harm another person. It's working where people are. And so now when we go through these stages of conflict, we sit back and say, okay, how can we identify these issues? That something is brewing. Can we tackle it before it gets worse? And if not, then if it gets to another stage where, the two parties are not able to reach this point where both of them are clashing and meeting head to head like this, what is it that both parties need, and what is it that both parties want, and how can we work together to achieve this? If there's still resistance on both ends, then ultimately you're going to see further conflict and further tension, and and ultimately it can lead to some breaking point. This is where we are as a society, in my opinion. When you look at the economic situation, the pandemic that has just run rampant in the lives of so many people, you know, and for those of you all that have lost a family member to this, you know, my regards go out to you. But look at what has happened to the society over this issue, and look at how we've just basically, I would say that we still haven't learned our lesson, in the sense that people are sick, people are dying, whether it be from this pandemic or whether it be from other issues, but we're still just going on like it doesn't even exist. You know, people are in a stage of losing their homes and losing jobs left and right. And it's like, we're just going by like it doesn't even exist. And it's like, do you honestly think that we can continue to progress like this, knowing that that powder keg exists right in our house, powder kegs exist within our house, that we have a subsection of American people that are in this society that cannot find food, that do not have a home, that are stuck living paycheck to paycheck, or may not even be getting a paycheck. How do you think, how long do you think this is going to last? And do you honestly think that the stock market's move to all-time highs is just going to continue, and that stuff is not going to happen and it's not going to affect us? Let's wait and see. You have about 2 more months, I believe. Let's see, October. Yeah, you have 2 more months, less than 2 more months, to see how this all manifests itself. But I do think that if we take our time to just take a step back and recognize who we are as human beings, and recognize that there are other people out there that need help, that need assistance, that are dealing with conflicts from so many different angles in their lives. If we can work together to uplift them, I think that we'll progress as a society. In a previous class, I said that if each person in this country, I was specifically talking about in a class, but I said if each of us does 1 hour of community service, 1 hour of just helping another person, dedicate that for a week, you know, just to 1 hour, 1 out of 168 hours. If we were just to dedicate our time to help another person, we can transform this society for the better. And when we talk about the aspect of transformation, we're talking about going to the roots of problems, uprooting those roots, and beginning to establish a new foundation. We can do that as a people in being able to make the necessary changes to heal another person. We just have to be willing to do that. So I'm going to stop at that point. I do want to ask you guys for a favor. There is a course that I would like to teach, but I'm going to probably need support from you all to assist me with that. This is a course called PCS 456, Sports, Conflict, and Peace Building. It's a course that's been on the books for a little while. As some of you all know, I came here in 2018. And this course, I think, would be a very interesting course for us to explore, especially in the context of what we're dealing with now, when you see many athletes beginning to use this, use the platform, their sports platform, as a political stage, not only to address social issues, but also to empower people, and also challenge a system that has become abusive in many cases. But the course is called PCS 456, Sports, Conflict, and Peace Building. If this is something that you guys are interested in, just email me, and I may have to get some numbers of a total tally of students that might be interested for this class, and maybe we can launch it next fall, hopefully face to face, if everything works to the better. But just let me know if that's something that you guys are interested in, and just, you know, do a thumbs up, and then we'll see what happens. Also, if you all have a topic that you all are interested in, please email me so that I can direct some more energy towards that topic of interest. And just let me know if there's, what you're interested in, and if you want to just shoot a couple statements to say why it's significant, and I'll do some necessary preparation to work with that topic and provide that opportunity for you all. So anyway, with that being said, please take care of yourselves, and let me know what you need. Be well.